speak on the blockchain. So I am in more on a investor side. I have spent some 20 odd years being into venture capital and investment industry, and have related blockchain around 4 to 5 years back. In fact, have tried to do the Bitcoin mining way back in 2013-14. Now it is very hot topic, and I think you all have gone through the whole day session on the blockchain and what is it all about and how it is helping everybody. So I think we all understand that the blockchain is very critical point, and it establishes trust in a society which is very low trust society. And a country like India, we are fundamentally a very low trust society, right? If you see any behavior anywhere in the road or any society or any shopping anywhere, the low trust factor is very out. Like say, to give example of how the low trust is so visible. So like say there is a empty road and there is a red light and green light, and you are crossing that road and you see a car coming from other side. What we all do? We do not slow down, we speed it up. We want to get out before that guy can cross it out, right? India is a country where we can have a 2-hour long jam which is just 100 meter in length, but still can. So there we can manage to get a jam with just 10 cars, right? Each car wants to get out. So in a society which is very low trust, Bitcoin established the framework where people with no trust can transact to each other, right? Because there are multiple ledgers, multiple data points. So as speaker before us told us, the tailgate scam and other scams, right, which was happening. The idea was how do you establish trust? So there is no debate about that. The blockchain itself will remove a lot of vertical inefficiency in the systems and change the way everything is happening around us. But I think we need to step back. We need to understand what this blockchain is going to do in a society, and as a society where we are right now. So I think what Charles Dickens said almost 100 years back, that this is one of the best times or this is one of the worst times. I think this is the right time is exactly like that. So we are having a what you call a technological onslaught on us. If we go back even 20 years back, even 15 years back, the role of technology was not so prominent what it was right now, right? So you look at your shopping, you look at your car uses, you look at your daily media consumption, you look the whole information flow as well as the job scenarios. The existing parameters are falling apart. And we are not realizing because we are in the middle of the chaos. We are in the middle of the disruption which is happening around us. So fundamentally, all the fundamental rule or whatever used to work in economics has fallen without us realizing. So the world before say this onslaught of information age used to have constraints everywhere. There was a constraint of speed, there was a constraint of time, there is a constraint of what you call information overflow. So there was a lot of constraints around us, and those constraints were limiting our behavior or kind of saving society from acting in a particular way. So like say there used to be freedom of expression, right? Amendment 1 in US, in Amendment 1 in India also, which is related to the freedom of expression. Today what is happening that everybody was allowed to express freedom, right? But when we have deepfakes, when we have very selective editing, how you can really engage the same model of freedom of expression in today's world? Or you look at guns, or look at the use of currency also. So coming to this whole the blockchain, we cannot evaluate blockchain with the same model of framework or laws which were there earlier in today's time, because it is going to become very complicated. Because at the end of the day, while blockchain has a lot of advantages, but it is also a little overhyped. It also has what we call scenarios where there is a lot of energy wastage, lot of energy uses, and can create a lot of challenges. Now, one of the blockchain use case is generally environment, of course. So, what it will do the environment? What exactly will blockchain be beneficial to the environment? I think the biggest change which can come to environment is from the use of blockchain into supply chains. So you can get a much better visibility of supply chain, how that is happening, how the products are moving. You can identify whether this fish which is coming is legally sourced or it is really done in in industrial conservation, or it is farmed or is it illegal spice. But the issue is not that whether you get supply chain visibility or not. Issue is the corresponding use case and how you really deploy it. And I think that's where the blockchain becomes very complicated. And the one more use case, which is I think is the digital currency. So India is going forefront in the digital currency. Everybody want to push. The present government is really pushing it out, and globally that is believed that the digital currency will change everything. Why so? Because it will remove the transparency, it will increase transparency, it will reduce the transaction cost, and it will help every traceability. So it will overall reduce the corruption. In fact, Switzerland has pushed so much out, so I think there are 50% digital adoption is there. There is hardly any cash there. So, when we talk of digital currency, we always end up talking of bitcoins. But the point is, if we really go digital adoption, there is one very fundamental question which we are all missing. With the more digital adoption and Bitcoin, the central banks will lose all their powers. And when the central bank will lose its powers, what will happen? The thing will happen that the government will lose its control on the money. And a government which does not have a control on the money, or which cannot control the money supply, can that government or can that country exist? So it is a very, very complex scenario. So when we think of Bitcoin, we think of digital currency, we believe that the democracy is coming, right? Like the same way as I said, when we are looking, we are in what I call it a hyper-local scenario. Everything is very hyper. Like say you do it one tweet, it gets multiple viral, 1,000 people, million people see all over the world, right? You do a supply chain, the small thing, like say when 5 rupee pen comes from 5,000 kilometers, throwing for multiple things, because everything is a very hyper local scenario. So same way the currency, which everybody is so excited about, but if the nation has no control on currency, that means nation cannot control the inflation, nation cannot control the supply of money, can a nation exist? So I will elaborate on this, it's a little complicated. The point is, a country create money by two ways. Anywhere in the world, the money you print. So one is the option, you print money. So every central bank prints money and the money is created. Second point is, a bank creates a loan. Whenever you create a loan, money is created. So this is the way that whenever there is a supply, inflation very high, the bank control the money supply. What it does, it stops printing money so that money supply stops, or when they need money, they start printing money. The second thing is when they want to issue, when they increase the CRR rate, repo rates per bank. So banks have to keep more cash with the RBI, central bank, so they cannot issue more lending. So again the bank is forced to control the supply of the money to the economy. So this is the way a country controls the money supply in the system. Right. Now when the world moves to digital, complete digital, think of it, there is Amazon, you are using Amazon. Now you use Amazon Pay to pay the payment, to buy stuff. The stuff which is bought to you is paid to the guy supplier who also uses Amazon, and the person you are using, your salary also get paid in Amazon. So think of this way that your money has you withdrawn from State Bank of India but went to Amazon, and now that money is rotating within the economy for say 10 times. That is what velocity of money. So the money which has come from SBI but is now in Amazon system for say 7 times or 8 times. So that means that any impact of the government will be 7 times lesser, because money is inside Amazon, the government cannot control it. Today SBI has almost 15% market share, almost 25% market share. But still the money doesn't break, because when you pay, you get your salary in SBI, but when you use your money on a shopkeeper, he might use a Visa account. He might have an account in HDFC or say Punjab National Bank. Then you take the money out, withdraw cash. So there are multiple ways the money gets broken. So there is nobody who has absolute power in the system. But think of it in a digital scenario where everything is happening on Amazon. So RBI even say, okay, we are not printing money anymore. The money is still rotating in the Amazon system. There is no way it can do that. Earlier, other thing used to happen that every company issue coupons. So like when the bank issue a loan, it creates money. Same way when a company issue a coupon, it creates money. Right? It say, okay, you are using 1,000 rupee coupon, use that. Now the point is, it was irrelevant. Say in an economy of say $2.5 trillion, issue of $100, even a $1 billion coupon doesn't impact anything. It's irrelevant. But think of it, if some company controls 25% of your trade, and then they start issuing coupon. They say, okay, if you buy LG, you will get so much transaction. So the transaction will start happening on LG. It won't happen anything else. So now RBI is not controlling your behavior. the coupon behavior printed by this company, I'm just using Amazon example, but any other company which controls the whole digital ecosystem is controlling that. So the point is, RBI, whether it increases CR rate or decreases repo rate, whether it increases interest rate or decreases interest rate, it has no meaning. And when a country cannot control the inflation rate, what will happen? We all have seen the Arab Spring. We have seen the Tahir thing. Whenever the food prices goes out of control, riots happen. A lot of things happen. Delhi has changed government because of the onion price rises, right? So the issue is, how do you handle this kind of disruption? So it is a new technology which is coming in, but the kind of, are we really the framework which you have? Because all our frameworks belong to, say, almost 100 years back. Whether it's your First Amendment, I think every law is related to environment where men used to take, say, 10 hours to go to one place. The goods used to take 2 days to reach to your place. In newspaper used to reach 1 day to reach your news. But today everything is stamped and everything is 100 times bigger. So in that scenario, when the nation cannot control neither information or nor the money, can a nation exist? Because nation state itself is not a very old phenomenon. Nations were created just 100 to 150 years back. There was no passport used to exist before 1926, right? Passport started in 1930. There was no passport otherwise. So these are things which are very complicated. So blockchain, coming back to the blockchain, is very, very fundamental. It creates a lot of ledgers, a lot of trust society. But without the corresponding legal system which is aligned to this kind of thing, I think it is another nightmare might begin. So this is what I think I have to say. Very different. So any question, anybody happy to answer? Sure. Okay.